I'm on offense. Nine. Path is cleared.
They want cheap sentiment? I'll pump them so full of sap they'll be blowing their nose with a pancake. They call her the cat lady. People say she's crazy just because she has a few dozen cats. But can anyone who loves animals that much really be crazy? The old Union Pacific doesn't come by here much anymore.
Do you remember this? Do you remember that one of the posts that you liked yesterday morning before court said, or it started off with this: when some fuckwit in a suit starts questioning your integrity and using his fucktard snake logic, he learnt getting his tonsils bruised by some lecturer's spotty dick at their non-binary law school. Remember one thing, that this cunt will be one of the first to be held down and drowned in a muddy puddle for his fancy jacket when society crumbles.
So last time we spoke was, I think, the tail end of 2022, and I moved back to New York shortly thereafter, about 2 months after we chatted, which I had so much fun talking to you, and I absolutely love your writing. I'm really happy for you that you continue doing what you're doing. I know you're constantly pumping out shit onto YouTube to, I guess, got to gain some traction. And then you just had that guy Scott Greer on, who one of my best friends is obsessed with. He's a big fanboy of Scott Greer. So kudos to you getting Scott Greer on your podcast, a live. I guess it's a podcast, right?
Yeah. So I do it as a stream and a pod now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all of them. It's both of them at once.
So shortly thereafter we did a show together, I moved back to New York, and the differences between, I guess, work-life balance is totally upside down living in New York, where I don't necessarily have the time to really get lost in the weeds, set up live streams, contact people that want to jump on, this, that, and the other. And I'm kind of fading this out. I don't want to say that it's over for me, but I just don't have that much to say as I used to. And so many things have been said time and time again. So I try not to sound repetitive, because a lot of people are, I guess, speaking in the same echo chamber, so to speak. And there's not much I can really add to what so many other people are doing. And when I moved back to New York, I tried to get away from like the red pill, black pill, I don't want to say negativity, but kind of get away from that, because the more you immerse yourself in that type of those type of topics, it kind of starts to leech onto you in your personal life. That's not necessarily what's happened to me, but I felt like I've been doing live streams and podcasts since the tail end of 2017. And it kind of got a little bit boring. That's more or less. So I kind of do this maybe like once a month now. I'm supposed to do some shows with Donald Jeffries. I don't know if you're familiar with who that is. A couple people have reached out to me, but I don't know how to push the show any further than it's already gone. And I reached out to you because you're one of the people I enjoyed speaking with, and I absolutely love your blog, and I'm really happy to see how much time, energy, and effort you put into your own work. So that's what brings you here tonight.
For sure, man. Anytime. Yeah, no, I remember our call together. Yeah, I enjoyed that too. Definitely.
Yeah, when you were talking about, I forgot, there'll be war, and it was about the small town in Montana.
Yeah,
and that post you did was just spectacular. And it rang so true to me, because all your social observations were everything that my show was kind of, speaking about. And it was kind of like a major focal point for a good 6 months, where I would just do a show about these downtowns and what they were like, and just the general, the sociology aspect of it, to where you just kind of like people watch and you just see how people interact with one another. And it's like you're having avocado toast with a homeless person outside, and there's a bicycle path. And I live that day to day, being in New York City, where there's these people that just are so not in tune with reality. They continue to be not reality despite post COVID, the way the economy's going, and so on and so forth. So why don't you fill us in what you've been up to, and I guess we'll take it from there.
What do you mean since then?
Yeah, man. Like, tell me a little bit for all my listeners out there. Why don't you tell a little bit about yourself?
Well, yeah, so I tweet under disgrace propagandist. I run a branding agency called Will, and we work with based clients. So this is all like, parallel economy type companies, crypto and sort of patriot brands, and a lot of like tech media company type things, like cool based stuff. And I've been a writer for a long time. I've long been a writer, and I wrote about culture. The article you're talking about was called "There's going to be a war in Montana," and that was about this topic that I really find to be reliably interesting to people, which is, it's really hard to almost put words into, but it's basically like the kind of global capital takeover of local things. So
Neoliberalism.
yeah, neoliberalism, globalism, and it's like when your small town or your favorite brand that you like or whatever it is, gets taken over by a larger parent subsidiary, or, some real estate and development group buys up a bunch of buildings in your small city, and then next thing you know, everything looks identical to every other small city, and everything is the same as everything else. That is a lot of I kind of focus on that a lot of times. I mean, as a branding guy and an advertising guy, I'm in the world of like brands and propaganda and sort of symbols and the quality of the things that we consume, right? And the world around us, the public art and things like that. So I'm just hyper conscious of these like sort of symbols of things. And I think that globalism is this kind of gray monoculture that just takes over everything and eats everything. And it makes it this really expected, middling, inoffensive gray mass. I think one thing that meme that people are probably very familiar with is we will not eat the bugs, right? You will eat the bugs. That's the perfect example of what I'm talking about here, because it's like, let's take all these things you used to love, these like meat, like, meat, steak, and local, culture, food, hot dogs in Chicago, whatever, and let's swap it out with like bug-based protein and dress it up as what it used to be before. So you think that it's the same, but actually, really, it's made for 1/10 of the price so that some global corporation can make more markup on that hot dog that you were eating before, right?
It's like you take a hot dog that's $1 and turn it into something that's $10.
Well, in fact, you take the hot dog that's $1 and you just make the ingredients cost 10 times less, and you jack up the price, right? You do all of it at once. And so you're just destroying culture. You're destroying culture in the name of this international globalist sort of monoculture that just helps businesses that are centralized in certain places just scale all over the world, and they just reach their tentacles all over the world, and they drink the milkshake of every local place, right? And they just but in reality they make it all the same. They make the globe just one interchangeable place where you can't tell the difference between Charleston and fucking Portugal. It's like it's all just the same shit. It's the same stores, it's the same foods, because it's like popular in this place or that.
Well, I call it the sustainable boutique economy with the Taco Bell infrastructure. For all my
Mm.
listeners out there, they're fully aware of when I say that, because I wrote in a few articles on the American Sun. Again, I stopped writing for them around the time the last time me and you spoke. And yeah, it was funny. I actually been to Charleston, and I did notice a lot of that, the same type of these. God, I forgot the terminology. It's for, they call them three-tier type of residential housing rentals, where it's kind of just
Yes,
cheap
5 over
sheetrock.
1s.
There's
Yep,
no there's
yeah,
no balcony, there's no setbacks to them, there's no lawns. Like
yep,
your front door opens out to the sidewalk, where there's just
yep,
very little privacy. Like your headboard is right up against a sidewalk, and the only thing that's separating you from that sidewalk is a piece of cheap sheetrock. So you kind of just hear the
yes.
city and stuff. And so, like, a lot of people move down there in their early 20s, and they kind of just wind up staying there for an extended period, not able to push themselves forward to the next tier of like a middle class society, which is, your detached house in the suburbs, where now all that is over $500,000. And the funny
Well,
thing,
and
yeah, go on.
it's not just that. It's not only that you're living in the city, right? Because what they're going to say is, well, everybody lives in the city. Everybody's always lived in the city.
Right.
It's this is not. We're not talking about that. We're talking about they're not these places that are being built. These sheetrock things. They're called 5 over 1s. There's
Yes,
really
thank you.
no good name for them because um they evade being categorized, and they evade being categorized for a reason, because it's all one thing. Like, it's the person who owns the newspaper also owns all these buildings. Right? So they don't want anything critical of their buildings. They don't want to be criticized. This, like, international global capital, the Borg, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't like to be criticized. It doesn't, and what it does better than anything is it refuses to be identified. That's really what it does best. That's why you see these disgusting, hideous buildings popping up everywhere, and they just look like cheap pieces of shit because they are cheap pieces of shit, right? And it's not just living in the city, right? It's like you go to the. Somebody argued with me about this once, and they were like, look back in history at the brownstones. The brownstones, which today are viewed as, these beautiful buildings, they were once categorized as also these hideous poor materials. So they were trying to make this point that you hear a lot from these NIMBY groups, which are just completely full of shit, just like fake
Yeah,
lobbying
yeah,
groups for
it's
these people.
AstroTurf. I'm fully aware.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's AstroTurf, right? And so these fake NIMBY groups say, "Oh, well, the brown people didn't like the brownstones. Now look, people like the brownstones." So I actually looked into that, and that's not true at all. Like, people did not fucking hate the brownstones. There was one thing where they were saying that brownstones were beautiful, but they were being made with like cheaper materials,
It was art or
But
arts, and that people took more time to craft these
yeah, but
certain
be right.
things.
But at
There's a
the
lot more
same
labor
time,
involved.
yeah. Well, there's so much more labor. The materials are so much higher quality. Like, look, of
Yes.
course, have builders always figured out ways to, save money and gouge people here and there? Of course, that has always existed. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about they don't even try to make it beautiful. They
Right.
don't even say it's our job to make this street beautiful. They just say, we're going to put up the biggest piece of shit you've ever seen here. And it doesn't matter because, oh, there's no such thing as, oh, it doesn't matter. It's mixed use. So look, we're providing, 2 units in this huge building for low income people. So therefore, we can build the whole thing out of piece of shit. It's hideously ugly, you know, and it's like they don't even believe in what's beautiful at all.
A great example. This is something that's been kind of like itching me lately is bridges. And if you haven't noticed, the bridges today resemble the same bridges that you see in China. There's nothing beautiful about them. They don't really have steel. It's basically a couple pieces of concrete, and then they throw lights on it. Like ooh, okay. So they recently, I say recently, it's 2017. They rebuilt the Tappan Zee Bridge and renamed it the I think it's called the Mario Cuomo Bridge. If
Really?
Andrew
Oh my
Cuomo's,
God.
So
Is that really true?
yeah. So the Tappan Zee Bridge was torn down, which was built in 1955, and they rebuilt this a cable bridge that resembles something you would see in mainland China. Nothing beautiful about it, other than they throw some lights on it. And there was another bridge I call it Kalawowski Bridge, named after some Polak who fought for the Americans during the Revolutionary War. This bridge had some character, man. It was rusty, it was old. It just everyone recognized it. It was real rugged New York looking bridge, and they built that prior to the new Tappan Zee Bridge, the Cuomo Bridge, and it's identical. It's the same exact bridge, just on a smaller scale.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. And it's like Chinese vibes, meaning it's just like nothing put into the beauty of it. It's just all utilitarian.
Or just straight utilitarian. It's not like the Brooklyn Bridge where you can, you want to do a selfie and it's cool, it's hip. It's like it's real New York, Brooklyn Bridge, right?
Yeah.
Little does the average person know that back when they built the Brooklyn Bridge, they didn't have computers. Most of the people that designed it were, obviously educated, but they built it because they weren't too sure. They want to maximize it, and they wanted to make it last. And for all those listeners out there, the heaviest traffic on the Brooklyn Bridge is the equivalent of an ant on the back of an elephant. That's how over-engineered it was. That's why it still stands today. It doesn't necessarily need as much maintenance because of how much was put into it. And they didn't necessarily care so much about the cost. They looked at it more of, hey, let's make this thing last.
Right.
Let's make something beautiful.
Right. Let's make a public fixture that people actually care about, that people actually like, And that's kind of what's missing. It's just what's missing is the impetus to make things beautiful and to make things actually matter. It's like imagine if you see it really the most in food. I think that food is the clearest example, and the whole backlash against seed oils, has really been the clearest example of this, because seed oils it really is the best metaphor for this you could possibly imagine, right? Because it's like you're taking these things that used to be made out of tallow, which is, beef fat, or olive oil, which is this really kind of beautiful oil, or, butter, or lard, or, it's the rendered fat, these animal fats, and you're replacing them effectively with motor oil. Not motor oil, but like motor lubricants, that's what motor oil basically is. It's obviously not petroleum, but I think that Crisco, whatever later became the basic seed oil, Crisco and canola, that began as a engine lubricant, like literally. That was not meant for human consumption, And so then later on it became like, oh, they're like, oh, people can eat this. Let's put it in everything because it's cheap, right? So you're destroying people's body. Not only are you destroying the foods by just filling them with this disgusting lowest bidder product that, you think it doesn't matter. You're also fucking up people's bodies, because we're not supposed to. There's a reason why this shit's cheap. It's not good.
Right.
It's not healthy for you, right? So everything is like this. It's this consultant, it's like global consultant mentality, you know? Everything is like, oh, what can we get away with taking out of this thing where people won't really notice enough, you know?
Right. And again,
That,
maximizing the profit
yeah,
aspect of it. Right.
yeah,
It's kind of what happens when you once private equity gets involved in something. That's basically what happens. I've come to the point now where I advise people, if it's something with private equity, just stay away from it. If it's regional, where it's not something
yeah,
local, stay away from it. So that's kind of what I've been advising people with, whether various vendors that I deal with. I'm like, no,
yeah.
this is a local company. They've been here for 50 years. You can talk to the owner. um, it's either, if you pick up if you call their phone number, you're not getting a 1-800 number, you're getting a local area code. So I try to advise people in my personal life to stay away from something where you're going to get elevator music and no one gets back to you for like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, no, dude, you see this in everything. Like I got eaten up. My business bank account got eaten up by Chase because First Republic went out of business. Um, and so I just switched to this private bank called Flagstar. That's fucking great. And
Oh,
it's like, dude,
I'm fully Flagstar. Yeah, they took over Sterling Bank. Yeah,
yeah,
First
you know
Republic and a
about
few others.
Flagstar.
Yep.
Yeah,
Bank United. Yeah, go on, go on.
yeah. And it's like, dude, it is shocking the difference. Like Flagstar, I have multiple people who I can call them on the phone at any time, and like actually talk to a fucking human being who understands who I am.
Born in
Whereas
America?
what? Yeah, they're
At least
born in
American?
America. Yeah, you
Okay,
talk
here
to
you
a
go.
fucking American dude, and it's like you try to call Chase Bank. It is the biggest fucking joke in the world. You can't. You're pressing buttons. You're
Yeah, I
talking to
know.
some fucking Filipino who can't fucking talk. It's
Listen, so
unbearable.
I've been banking with Chase since I was in high school. To bypass all that, little life hack: hit pound pound, and he'll
Yeah,
go. You'll get a live person.
really. Pound
Yes,
pound, not
hit
just
pound
one
as
pound.
soon as put your whatever your debit card, your credit card number in first, and then sorry we didn't get that. Sorry we didn't get that. You just hit pound pound, and it'll
Just
redirect you.
2 pounds, only
Yeah,
two.
2 pounds,
Okay,
and you'll
two
get
pounds.
someone. Yep.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
Eventually,
Two
I'm
pounds.
surprised they haven't caught on to that, but that's been my go-to for the past 20 years. So
And it
I'm
works.
I'm waiting for the day it doesn't work. I'm waiting for the day because I know there's gonna be enough people that caught on to that trick.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Jeez. Yeah, and I'm gonna hold on to that. Save the world, organic, like vegan, like let's save the animals. That's how they used to like status signal. Whereas now they status signal by being like, nah, fuck that. I'm not eating this slop. I'm not doing these vaccines. Like not getting vaccines for your kid is now like the thing that like hot girls do. Like hot moms don't vaccinate their kids now, like for real.
Right now, it's got polio. Nice going because you let in so many fucking people from the third world.
Right now you have
Leprosy's
polio,
making a comeback. I've
yeah,
noticed a
but
lot
you're
of
cool.
white women
Yeah,
now. I've been hearing this more and more when speaking to white women. Oh, I want to trad life. It's like,
yeah,
what?
exactly. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
you
what
want to
they want now,
trad
man.
life, and I see like their spouses or their husband, their boyfriend just roll their eyes like, no, that's not reality. No, you have to work. You're not going to
Yeah,
be. You're
yeah.
not homesteading in America. I'm sorry, because you will not like it. You're not homesteading in Charleston. You're not homesteading in New York City. Sorry.
No, no, you're not. That's
So you
very
see a
true. I
lot of
mean,
women
yeah.
now, like, no, I want this lifestyle. We're way you that ship sailed a long time ago.
Well, it's really ironic, isn't it? Because in a way, it's so funny because it's like they are women are like acknowledging the red pill. Like they're kind of saying like, yeah, okay, I don't want to work. Like I don't want to be a fucking girl boss. Fuck this. Like I just want a rich dude. And so they're becoming like the girls in like Asia, right? Who are, the girls in Asia, they're not under any illusions. Like they're not sitting around like pretending like they want to fucking be girl bosses. I mean, for the most part, like they're just like, I want a rich guy, that's my job. Be a rich guy, take me off my feet. And so white, like American women are becoming more like that. Like they're realizing like we don't want these fucking jobs. So in a way, like we're the red pill type dudes are being proven to be right. The problem is, and this is always be careful what you wish for. Once you've gotten what you want, and none of these girls are working anymore, now as a guy to attract women, you got to be even more
Right.
rich. Like now you got to be doubly rich as you were before. So it creates even more hypergamy than was there before. But now it's every girl is lining up. They're just like, all right, let me be the third wife of some guy who actually has a ton of money, which is in a way kind of how it should be. Like Jeff Bezos, he should have like 8 wives, right? I mean, like basically, shouldn't he?
Yeah, it's I kind of called this a long time ago. You're going to start seeing harems form, and that's kind of what's happening, which is not good. To build a
No,
functioning society. Because if you go to any nation that has harems, you don't really want to live there.
Well,
What I was going to say is like because of the money printer go burr, you still have the cat lady industrial complex where a lot of companies just I'm so cynical, society. This is how deep I'm in my thoughts, that I truly believe that most Fortune 500 companies, because most of them are insolvent, these shell companies, non-for-profits, NGOs, probably half the federal government and state government, localities. They just subsidize these women just to not reproduce. I really, truly believe that. Where now you actually have in your health package, you can freeze your eggs.
Yeah, you can freeze your eggs. Dude,
yeah,
totally,
PGNY, Prodigy. There's a couple
I
of
know
these
a
companies.
girl. It's a girl. This fucking girl, man. I worked with this girl, and she seems so cool. Like when you're actually sitting there talking to her, you're like, "Oh, you're really cool. Like you're very interesting, and you're really good at conversation, and you seem so much like a girl who like gets it." And then it's like you realize when you're talking to her and trying to like make plans with her, or like trying to like understand like what her life is like, she is living a complete fantasy where she really believes that she's going to somehow become like the CEO of a tech company.
Right.
She's going to found a great tech company, and that's what she really wants. And I'm like, even if you started a tech company, you would not want to do that. Like, and she's like, oh yeah, they froze my eggs. Like, yeah, we got free egg freezing, like blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, man, you are so brainwashed, dude. Like, she really thinks, they take this like they take woman's ambition, which is like, totally reasonable. Like women have ambition, men have ambition.
Yep.
Like it's fine, but they take it and they just fucking use it against them.
Yep.
In every way. I mean, is what you're saying is, do you think that they're intentionally sterilizing them, or you're just like, why? Well, so why would they intentionally do it?
It's the whole the white
Like
genocide
population
thing.
control.
It just bring down to basically any woman that has a decent IQ, who has a decent upbringing, middle class upbringing. You put her, you brainwash her going into college. She becomes a foot soldier of the Borg, and she's basically one of these people that you're talking about.
But why white genocide? Like why? Because the thing is, because if it was really they wanted white genocide, then I feel like the people that suffer from this the most are the like viable.
They think there's enough technology.
Like
they feel that there's enough competent people to keep the system afloat, and they can wall themselves off from the hoi polloi that will have to fly on what's that, some JetBlue or some other cheap
It's
Spirit.
Spirit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
let
yeah.
them fly on Spirit and have the
Yeah.
DEI pilot and let that plane fall out of the sky. Meanwhile, I fly around on a private jet.
Yeah, yeah. Oh
That's
my God.
I hate that. That's really, and you have to realize something. It would technically be air quote any persons of European descent that are blue collar that have their wits about them would be the ones that would put a stop to neoliberalism. So they view them as a threat. Basically, any type of blue collar with a half a brain, who's
Yeah.
kind of pro union. Um, and I'm not necessarily endorsing unions, but I've definitely kind of started going down that path as more of a plausible way of countering a lot of this insanity, which is neoliberalism, because the only jobs still unionized in the United States are the ones you can't outsource. Unfortunately, that goes with teachers, bus drivers, construction workers, so on and so forth. And but
Yeah.
with that comes a higher price, because now that person has a health care, a pension plan, paid time off, so on and so forth. And corporations don't like that. So what do? You bring in hordes of hordes of day laborers to push back on anyone that wants a livable wage, because I do think the United States was founded on just cheap labor. Because any time, and you see it, I see it in New York City, it's, oh, the Mexicans want to get paid. Well, let's bring in El Salvadorians. Let's bring in the Pajites. Let's bring
Yeah,
in the
yeah, yeah,
mainland
yeah.
Chinese. Anytime a new ethnic group appears in the United States, and once they realize what the hell this is about, they're like, well, wait a second, you're not, no, bring in more people. They got shut up.
Yeah,
Bring
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So
Yeah, no, that's very true. It's very, very true. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what makes the world go around, man. It's just cheap labor. It's
cheap
always
labor.
been.
And you circling back to the whole white girl thing, you just look at the positions that they're in. It's a position that's not necessarily needed. I'm not saying all, but you just look like, I'm an administrator, learn to code. You look at the healthcare industry, where it's just dominated by women, and it's like, well, what do you do exactly? You're
Yeah.
just like a paper pusher, a glorified paper pusher, and a lot of those
Well,
paper
and
pushing jobs
that's
becoming
what
automated.
but that's why it's like it really does all come back to I fundamentally am a, WQ guy. You know what I'm saying? Like some people are JQ people, some people are HBD people. Everybody's got their explanation for like why everything is fucked, right? I mean,
Well, it's a
everybody kind of like,
consolation of things. You can't necessarily pinpoint one
of course,
one
look, it's not
notion.
any one thing. And actually, at the end of the day, it's really, again, it's none of these things. What it actually is the Borg, right? What
Mm-hmm.
it really is it's globalism. I mean, this is why Alex Jones is such a genius, because he really understood that behind all of this wokeness and behind all of this racism and all these reasons that we have, in reality, what it is this just technological, industrial sort of takeover of everything, right? And like at the end of the day, that's really what's causing this. And women are not the cause of it, they're really the victim of it,
Right.
and they're just being used against themselves, as we just said, right? They're being used against themselves. So actually, like, when I feel great distaste for the way a woman is behaving or acting or getting angry in this world, in reality, I should be like, look, this woman has just been victimized basically by this, system that is taking advantage of her.
You
But at
you
the end of the
try,
day,
but if
I
you
still,
try
yeah.
showing them that what you're just stating, they go into a state of cognitive dissonance. It's
Well, and
very
exactly,
difficult.
and here is why I think that actually women cut closer to what we're talking about than anything else, and that's because every other version of this has been tried. you know, every other version of this labor, slavery, you know, indentured servitude, just straight up conquest, um, you know, any of these things, they've all been tried. They've all they've all been tried before in the whole. Shit. Hello.
Yep. I hear you.
Yeah.
You're good.
They've all been tried, right? The one version of this that has never been tried is thing, right? Feminism. This feminism thing has never been done before.
Right.
And uh that's why it's so weird. It's so doesn't work. Uh and we're learning that, right? We're learning because what this Borg wants, as we've said, is it wants people to be interchangeable.
Right.
It wants them to be indistinguishable from one another.
Everyone. I've written about this. You cannot decipher class distinctions anymore because everyone wears a pair of Nikes. Everyone wears a T-shirt.
Exactly. Everybody is the
everyone has
same.
a
Yeah, right. And everybody is totally interchangeable with one another, right? And so that's what it wants, because when you're totally interchangeable, everything is purchasable, everybody is fungible, right? Everything is perfectly fungible. There's nothing that's protecting you from the market. It's just you can do whatever, everybody can do everything, women can do everything, men can do everything, everybody is the same, right? So when that's the situation, they have total control. But the difference is humanity has already fought all these battles uh, for the rights of man. We've already done the rights of man. Whereas women, we've never done this before.
right.
We've never done we've done women as slaves, but we've never done women as fungible equals, the same as men. We've never done everybody is the same thing, right? And that's why this is particularly nefarious. And I think that the workplace, as we see the destruction of the workplace, just like the overwhelming destruction of the workplace, it's all because of this lie that they're telling everybody that men and women can work together and there's no difference, right?
Right.
That men can work and women can work side by side, and the women are going to be CEOs and the men are going to be secretaries, and it's no different, because the entire reason why this has ever happened is because men have oppressed women, and really everybody's just been equal this entire time, and we just didn't know because the men were forcing the women not to do it. Not that there's a metaphysical difference between men and women, which there obviously is. And so that's what they're learning. I think what we are learning in this ridiculous experiment is, you can't do that.
Well, there's a story out of New Zealand of the survey warship running aground, and it was, I think, half the crew was women, and you had a lesbian captain running this $100 million warship into a reef, and there's all these people trying to make excuses for it, and of course the head of the New Zealand Navy is a woman. And again, it has nothing to do with the captain. No. And then the excuses are, well, women have to learn the way that
they
men
have to
learned.
learn. And if it means if we got to ground some ships,
right,
because
people
women
need to die.
they got to try it. They got to learn it in their own way.
Right, that's exactly all these articles repeating the same mantra of "Don't look at the captain, don't look at the captain. You're an armchair admiral. What do you don't know what you're talking about?" Meanwhile, it's the first warship New Zealand's lost since World War II. And given the trajectory on the geopolitical side of things, probably not a good idea to be testing out DEI when China is really not down for any of the social experiments the West is engaging in.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, who knows how this is going to blow up? I mean, it's so obviously wrong. It's so obviously dysfunctional. And I mean, you can see the dysfunction everywhere. I mean, you can just see it. It's just pervasive. And I mean, the biggest dysfunction is, again, I say this not at all to be sexist. I say this because I'm genuinely curious. Why has there not been a female CEO?
Right.
Sure, there's been female CEOs of existing companies that get sort of installed and they hang out at the top of these companies and, kind of, they're a bureaucrat who runs the company, but we've been waiting around. We've created these conditions. There have been more women than men in college for 40 years.
Right.
So where's the female science discoveries? Where's the female inventions? Where's the female companies? Where's the female any of these things that women were supposed to do that would justify them being forced into the workplace violently and men being violently forced out of it and forced to play in these environments that are in even according to them deeply uncomfortable, right? It's really impossible for men to be in these environments. They're going to say, oh well, that's just the cost of it's the cost of change, right? But as we've said, oh yeah, we got to wreck a few ships, we gotta destroy a few men's careers because it's worth it in the end, because in the end then women or men will be exactly the same interchangeable thing, and guess what, that's great because then women can do whatever the hell they want just like men can, right? I mean, that's supposedly the excuse.
Well, I used to make a point, if you see like a group of women together, like at a whatever, it could be them, just a group of women getting together. It's not like they're trying to figure out how to build a Saturn V rocket. If a woman's on a phone call, she's definitely not talking about how she discovered the cure for cancer.
Oh, dude, I mean, I'm blessed and cursed to be at the forefront of this because I'm in marketing. And so I really do work with women all the time. And I work with them on very equal footing. So there's no
I was about to say evil footing.
evil footing. There's no bullshit. There's no kind of oh, they're an engineer, right? It's like there's no excuse. Like a woman, they completely dominate marketing. There is absolutely no reason why they should be worse at marketing than men, right? It's a kind of female coded thing to begin with. It's a completely, there's no excuse, right?
Even with songwriting, man, it's like I was like listening to like some female artists I like a lot. I'm like, wow, that's a great song. Sure enough, it wasn't written by her. It was written by two guys.
Yeah.
And you just keep going down
and dude, and the reason for that is it's just when you are working with women in the context that I do, it's so obvious. It's overwhelmingly obvious the differences between men and women and the things that they care about, the things that they talk about. And it's even the most based, the worst offenders, honestly, are the ones who think of themselves as based.
Yes.
It's the ones who think, well, I'm not like the other girls, right? I'm actually really I'm a dude.
I'm unique.
I'm basically a dude. Yeah, right. And then sure enough, you end up talking to them, and it's like, again, it's not their fault. It's not like they're a piece of shit, They're just on a totally different page than dudes, man. And it's like you cannot say, I've said this in other contexts, but you cannot say to a woman in one of these situations, "Shut the fuck up."
Right.
Right. I cannot say to a girl, this literally happened recently. I said, "Stop whining, just do what I fucking tell you to do." Right. You can, yeah, maybe if I was a billionaire, I could say that. But as the head of an agency, as the creative director of an agency, I cannot say that to a woman. It's not possible. I say that shit to men every fucking day. I say, this thing sucks. This is bad. Try harder, do it better, blah, blah, blah. Some men can't take it because they've been totally cucked by this world. But a good man, a good worker who wants to grow and get better, yeah, maybe they'll take it a little personally, but they're going to go back to the drawing board and fucking come back and do a better job, right? That's how this shit goes. That's how it's always worked. And now we're supposed to believe that we can't do that anymore because you're not allowed to talk to women that way,
I'm going through something right now where I have to fire a woman from her position.
Can you say what your company is?
Oh, it's well, I'm actually I'm a volunteer to a board,
Oh, okay.
and we have an agent who's supposed to take care of these things because I'm a volunteer. I'm not getting paid to do this shit. Your job is
Yeah.
to facilitate for me, right? I tell you, do this, this, and this, and see to it that it gets done. And because of the whole hurricane that happened in the South and stuff, I'm kind of volunteering via remote. And I know everything that's going on, so on and so forth. But we have this annual meeting of shareholders to get together, and her job is to facilitate the meeting. In the contract, it states that you have to be present at this meeting, and she's
Mhm.
making a bunch of excuses. I can't go. I can do it through Zoom because of the
Yeah, yeah,
hurricane and this.
yeah,
And I'm like, that's not what your contract says, okay?
yeah.
And there's a bunch of other things that she's been doing wrong, and I've been making excuses for her. She's been going through a lot of stuff in her personal life, and I
Yes.
gave her I gave her the widest berth imaginable, and I know what her job. I know what she's dealing with her job, and I'm asking for the littlest morsel of a crumb for her, and she won't do it. And I
Yeah,
pulled her.
yeah.
I actually contacted her boss, saying, "Listen, she's really not doing what we're asking her to do." And he starts making excuses for her. No
Yeah, it's
apology, no nothing.
unbelievable,
The
dude. No,
man is
yeah,
defending her. This is the
yeah,
person I'm giving you thousands of dollars, tens of
yeah,
thousands of dollars
yeah,
annually to do the littlest I ask of you, and it's a bunch of
yeah. And you
excuses. So
can't fucking do it, dude. I same thing with me, dude. I hired this fucking girl recently. Sorry, no,
no, no, no.
finish your
Let me
thing, man.
finish real quick.
Yeah,
So,
sorry.
so I wrote back, and I said in an email to the both of them, after receiving the her employer's email of just defending her, not why she can't attend. I'm like, first of all, it's not like I'm asking her to go across whitewater rapids and fight off mountain lions and shit. I'm asking you to be present to a bunch of boomers and having coffee and donuts and say everything's hunky dory for an hour. That's all I'm
yeah,
asking, right? So
yeah,
I wrote a story about my godfather. And this was during Hurricane Sandy. He lost his house is underwater, and my godmother is has stage 4 stomach cancer. House is underwater. His wife is dying. You know what he did the next day? He went to fucking work. He went to fucking
yeah,
work the next day. Next day, everyone said, "Don't go to work. What are you crazy? Your house is underwater.
yeah.
You just lost everything." No, no, I got to go to work. Got to go to
Yeah,
work.
yeah, yeah.
And that's something that I don't think women can necessarily understand.
Well, and again, it's not even. Yeah, no. Well, sorry to hear that for him,
Right? No, he's
but it's again, it's not even their fault, man. It's just that their brains. It's like, yeah, this girl that I heard, it was like she was so sure that she was fucking cool, man. Like she was so sure that she was one of the good ones, and then it's like,
you can't
yeah,
rain on that parade.
every single
You
time.
cannot pop the bubble.
Every single time we talk, it's like she's not talking about the work. She's talking about how it's somebody else's job to do something she's been asked to do. And oh, it's not, oh yeah, sorry, I don't work on Sundays. I don't do this, blah, blah, blah.
Right, right.
And look, she's doing what a woman is supposed to do, which she's sort of like policing. She's like policing the quality of what we're doing, right? It's like this is what women are sort of meant to do. They're meant to police the
Police.
quality
Right.
of like of a community or of a family, like that's kind of what they're meant to do. So it's like the problem is that's not what a a workplace, at least in terms of what we think of as like a workplace, it can't survive that way. I mean, it can survive. It's just going to be miserable, and whatever you make is going to suck. Like your product is going to suck. The thing is going to suck for men because it's just going to be this constant, like familial check-in of like, oh, are we being safe for this person? And is
Right.
everybody feeling included? And is everybody like, getting enough rest and shit? And it's just like, dude, that's like not what particularly like the creative workplace where you're actually making something. Like that's not what that's for, like it doesn't make anybody better when
No,
your
but
marketing
people,
company is like,
the
you
people
want people
around
to be.
her are
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, that's such beautiful refrigerator art. It's a Picasso. You're just as good as Picasso."
Yeah. Right.
Let me ask you something. What do you think of, like, I'm gonna say the parents of these women, but don't these? I guess at this point in time, I think a lot of parents realize, maybe sending our daughter to a 4-year school is not the greatest idea. And I think this is just my theory on this, is that most parents wanted a son, and they kind of project their ideas of, like, how do I put this without pissing people off? Like she's going to a 4-year college. Okay, to do what? To be a guy? Is that what you're raising your daughter to be?
Yeah,
Is another
exactly,
another
dude.
part of the
Yeah,
board?
yeah,
An inferior man is basically
let's
what you're
have her go
raising.
play hockey. Can she
Right.
go play
Let her
hockey?
go travel to Morocco with her friends. That is a great idea. She's traveling. It's so funny. I talked to this boomer. It's like, my daughter, she went to, I was told this guy that I lived in Southeast Asia for an extended period. And he goes, "Well, what did you think of Thailand?" I go, "I had a really nice time in Thailand." He goes, "Yeah, well, when my daughter went there, she was drugged." I'm like, "Oh, well, who did she go with?" "Well, she went with like three or four of her friends." Like, "Well, how old's your daughter?" "She's 22. I'm like, "Oh, so where in your mind did you think that was a good idea, to let your 22-year-old daughter, who's never left her bedroom or your house, right? She went from high school, again, these facilities that are kind of like prisons now, basically. You go to high school, which, high schools and middle schools and public schools in general now resemble prisons, to college, where you're in a dormitory, you're in a sterile environment, you're getting indoctrinated, you're not really engaging with the outside world all that much. There might be a few people from other countries in that school, but they all come from the same kind of same socioeconomic background, regardless of what they look like, right? So now you send her to Thailand at 22.
Yeah.
What do you think's going to happen? You think she's going to go ride an elephant? No, she's going to get drunk. Some guy's going to roofie her, right? And they don't think, well, not all ties are bad. Not all, it's always the exception and not the rule.
Well, Thailand might actually be one of the places that is because I think the Thai men are not super threatening, right? I mean, maybe you would know more than me, but it's
no, but Thailand is the most deadliest country for foreign nationals.
Really,
but it's also one of the most
Okay,
visited,
yeah.
so it kind of coincides. But it's usually with Thailand, they kind of push it under the rug unless it's something that catches fire as far as social media is concerned. I remember those two young British couple getting killed, I mean, maybe like 10 years ago. That kind of caught like a windstorm. But there was so many other stories, a plethora of stories like that prior to them getting killed. But I'm kind of venturing off the point. What I'm trying to get back at is that a lot of these parents don't necessarily raise their daughters to be women anymore. They raise them to be kind of LARPing like a guy. Like, you're gonna go play softball. You're gonna go. You're gonna go travel.
Yeah, no, and that's what's so weird. It's like, why? That's what's so odd, isn't it? It's like, why is it always that way? Like, why? Yeah, why do the men want their girls to do male shit?
Right.
It's just like,
exactly.
like why would you not want to like, what's so bad about teaching them feminine shit? Like, why can't a little girl have a story in which, instead of playing hockey, she loves fucking,
dolls and
doing
cooking.
something feminine? Yeah, exactly. Cooking, or like taking, like, I mean, really, the real princess story is being beautiful and finding the prince, right? I mean, that's really the female success story, is like, right, is like being this beautiful sort of like sweet kind of princess, and then you attract this handsome man, and then you live happily ever
Right.
after,
And then
right?
you police the community.
Yeah, well, right. Or yeah, maybe we could even go further than happily ever after. Maybe that's why they're pissed. It's like, yeah, can't there be like a female role that they
Doesn't
like,
involve a
you know?
wagey cagey 9 to 5 job.
Yeah, or as you say, that doesn't involve just being a man. Doesn't involve just like copying male characteristics and just doing everything a man does,
Well, women
basically.
don't seem to realize that if a woman enters these domains, men just don't. Despite her accolades and whatever she may accomplish, um, men just won't necessarily view her as an equal because she's still a woman. So
Well, and not
she
only
could
that,
she could she could win a Medal of Honor, but no, every guy's gonna just go roll their eyes and be like, "Nah, no, you didn't."
it's also again they don't. I don't even really like. Look, women want to be creative, but they don't really want these things. That it's like it's just they're sort of being like misappropriated in a way, like everything is, yeah, they're just being sold like you can do everything that a man does, so therefore you should go play hockey. So I don't know, yeah, it's rough.
It is rough. I don't see though that this what we're discussing changing anytime soon. I know you're talking about like a lot of women wanted the whole trad life, but they say it, but they don't necessarily mean it, nor do they know exactly what that instills. So okay, you want the trad life? Well, guess what? Again, it's not going to be 20 miles outside of Los Angeles. It's going to be like in rural Kentucky. Do you understand that? It's like it turns into a Green Acres situation. Dun, 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 dun. Like you sure you want that? I don't know if you really want that. And I think guys that actually live that style aren't really that like monetary successful. They kind of just want a simple life. Like, all right,
Yeah,
I have my computer's 5 years old. It works. I don't need to go out and buy a new computer, right? So
yeah.
women don't necessarily understand that guys are okay with not having it all. Like men are just much more content with a certain lifestyle, and men in America today are much more accepting of that than they were in the past. Like they understand that, okay, every house in my neighborhood is now $800,000. Well,
Yeah,
I can get an apartment, and I have a car that's paid off. It's not the newest car. I'm good with this. And women see that as, well, you should be doing more. Well, for what?
yeah. Well, right, it
It's
kind of
never
ruins
enough.
that too, but it's like, I don't know, like I said, like if we end up getting this back, like if this really does ends up changing, it's actually just going to kind of in a way make, you know incels all the more incelly, right? Because it's gonna like even further make it so that
It's going to
you know
exacerbate the problem, is what you're saying before. You're going to see more
yeah,
more
I
of the
think you're right.
harem
It'll
situation.
get worse before it gets better, right? It's like actually men will just drift further and further. But I mean, it is weird though, because it's like you don't really. The other thing is when you live in a female dominated society, which we obviously do, uh, there are certain things that women, like the women who actually control things, um, won't allow. And one of them is prostitution, right? And the other one is harems or polygamy, right? They're never going to allow that. Like when you actually live in an actual female dominated society, they are never going to allow polygamy.
Right.
They're never going to let you, they're not going to change and be like, oh yeah, you know what, I mean, I don't know, that's actually not entirely true. You do, like, I do notice in the elites, right, the elites, uh
They call them cloud
they
people.
they are really like switching to um like this whole poly thing. They're
Yeah,
really like
they're
going
pushing it
poly.
because it's something that they do.
Well, and they really are like doing it. I mean, but the thing is, again, it's like the people who are the biggest victims of it are themselves. Like they're so into it. Like these rich people, dude, it's like the girls are like if you're a guy, it's the funniest thing in the world. I read this girl's blog who I know, who's this like rich girl, and she's all in this scene, and she's all in the like poly scene, and she writes these blogs that they're frankly great because they're just so honest. And it's like she goes on vacation, and she's always vacationing in these like really fancy places, and so she'll meet a guy, and the guy will just be some like hot guy, and he'll say, "Oh yeah, uh I'm not with my primary right now. She's at home, but we're open, we're in an open relationship, and my primary is just not here right now." Right. So it's like, they just have this new language for saying, like, let me fuck outside of my marriage. You know what I mean? It's like they're just the elites are just using this like language. I mean, they've always done this, right? But I really feel like the girls are, they're none of these girls are gonna settle for some schmuck. They're just not trained to do that at all. So they're just gonna fuck these guys. I mean, it's really like it's just ultra red pill, like on crack. They're just gonna fuck these guys forever and never end up really getting married. The problem is, in a more honest world, they would at least be able to have the kids of these guys, right?
Right.
And these guys would be able to have, these guys would have multiple kids. The girls would get what they wanted, and it would be like a multiple wife, as you're saying, it would be a harem multiple wife situation, which is what happens in the state of nature, as we've all seen. But the society has developed in such a way that the women won't allow that to happen. Even if they want that, they won't really let
they
it happen.
put themselves in a straitjacket. It's like
Yeah.
they won't allow prostitution. Okay, are they victims, or is it a woman's right to choose? Which one is it?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So what do? They criminalize the John. He gets in trouble. But I'm like, shouldn't it be the drug dealer getting arrested? No, she's a victim. Yeah, but what if
she's a victim?
And I go, what if she likes cock a lot? Did you ever think of that? And she's not a victim because they're all they just like to have sex. So what about those women? So you see, like in Europe, I think in France, there's a huge backlash about these laws where you're just arresting the guys.
Well, in Europe, they're so much more cool about it, man. Like in Europe, they just get it. In Europe, like that's
they're more sexually mature. I'm fully aware.
That's the one difference between Western Europe and America is that when it comes to this type of shit, they're just much more like reasonable. Whereas America, we still have this complete fantasy, and that's why women in America are really the fucking worst, because they have no consciousness of like what male sexuality actually is like at all. They live in total fantasy world where they think that male sexuality is the same as female sexuality, basically.
Right. So guys don't really like tattoos. And what do you mean guys don't like tattoos? Well, if you look at the most popular porn stars ever, none of them have tattoos. What does that say?
Yeah, right.
It's just using that as a base point. But yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. It's nice to. I think the last time we did a chat, you weren't really didn't really want to discuss the WQ, but I'm glad you're discussing a little more.
Well,
tonight.
Again, I want to just say, like, I don't want to be. I'm not a purity spiral. There's only one thing I'm a purity spiraler on for real, and that's tranny shit. Like, I really am. I really do not believe in trannies. Like, I do not think the trannies are an acceptable identity. I don't. I just don't buy it at all. Like, I'm not gonna hang out with you. I'm not gonna call you a guy. It's not like a gay dude, whatever, fine. I really don't care. Go bang guys. And also, like, the gay identity is something, even the gay identity, which is not just a desire, but an identity.
It's been beaten to death.
Yeah, it's even that. It's like, all right, like if a gay man wants to be this kind of artistic force on the world, and I had a guy on my show named Filthy Armenian, and he's gay, and we talked about this, and he was like, yeah, the role of the gay man. The role of the gay man is in society is like he has a certain role. It's like he does certain things. He serves a certain function, and I buy that. I think that that's okay. I don't think we should be celebrating it. I don't think we need to have parades about it. I think that's really bad.
They're there.
Yeah. But it's like, all right, like if you want to play this role where you don't have kids, you spend your life sort of being like I call them like adherents to the cult of Dionysus, right? They're pleasure people. They're people who have decided to dedicate their lives to pleasure. And it's like, all right, fine. If that's what you want to be, go. In the theater and
There's more of them in
wine and right. Like they want to max out their pleasure while on Earth, and they don't want to have kids. They don't want to have any responsibility. Like, fine, fucking go for it. I'm not going to celebrate you. I don't think it's a good thing. I think it's like, that's what AIDS comes from and shit. But it's still like, I'm not going to like, I'm going to hang out with you. I'm happy to invite you to my party. Like, we can work together, blah, blah, blah. A tranny is not that. A tranny is a different thing. And a tranny to me is the analogy that I use with trannies is, if I have a fascist club and somebody shows up to my fascist club wearing a shirt that says I'm a socialist, and then they go, no, 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 I was born a socialist, but I'm now a fascist. Right? It's like, no, you don't get to do that. You don't get to say, I am both wearing a giant sign on my head that says I'm a bio-Leninist, right? That I believe that, as we said, that human beings could be interchangeable. I'm the Borg, whatever. You don't get to wear the sign on your head that says that and then come to the anti-bio-Leninist party and be like, oh, I'm one of you. Like, no, you can't, that's too much. You can't have it both ways, man. It's like being a lesbian rabbi, like Barry Weiss. It's like, okay, you can be a lesbian or you can be a rabbi. You can't be a fucking proud lesbian rabbi. You got to pick one or the other. Like, you can be a tranny, but you can't also be a based fucking, whatever we are, dissident right-wing activist. You can't be both of those fucking things. You got to fucking choose. So that's what I feel about trannies. But anyway, I just want to say that I'm not like that with women. Like, I fully accept that individual women have great talent. I've worked with many of them who are very talented. They really can do a lot of great stuff. What I'm really referring to is an environment in which women are, as you've said, either coalescing to sort of dominate the environment, or they've been sort of told that they're a man, and that when you treat them like a man, that's not acceptable. Like, right? That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's impossible to work with them, and that they don't have a role in all this, and that they're not equally valid, and they're not equal to men in a sort of metaphysical way.
Well, feminism, what it basically does is removes the power that women actually have, and how they're able to, in my experience, women's ability to manipulate their surroundings to get what they want. So I'll use some examples. Like, I used to work with this attorney, and I would do anything for her, and it was the way that she would speak to me and direct me in such a manner that she would do it in a more of a motherly manner, so to speak. Like, she was kind of like a caring individual that I worked with, and the way she would, I guess, manipulate me to do what she wanted me to do made me go out and perform to her liking. And what feminism does is removes that ability, where they kind of
so
just
what do
become.
you mean? What do you mean exactly?
Like, bring me food or ask how I'm doing. Actually inquire about my life to show that she cares, but at the same time wants me to get the job done, so to speak. Does that make sense?
But you're saying, okay, so you're saying this was sort of the feminine way of doing it?
Right, exactly. It was like her way of coalescing what it is that she wants and manipulating me and other men around her to go out and actually perform. Feminism does the complete opposite of that, where you're telling them to act like a man and bark orders.
Yes, right. Yes, exactly. Which just pisses everyone off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which gives rise to the Karen, because now the Karen the Karen doesn't necessarily know which way, which direction she should go, and she's fighting against her own instincts, which is to use to manipulate and use the surroundings to her advantage. What feminism does is, no, you got to act like a man.
Yes, that's very well put, actually. It's right. It's like, again, and we're not, I just want to be clear because I really don't want to be a purity spiraler in this way. I really don't, because I I am not trying to say, like, AWAB. I'm not trying to say all women are bad here. I really, I love women. I like being around them. I like when they're around me. I like their opinions. I like talking to them about things. I like their womanly ways. I really like them. I think what you're saying is, yeah, I don't want all of, like, yeah,
I don't
I
want to
just
deal with
want,
another dude.
you're right. Yeah, you want them to feel free to be a woman, and
Right.
I think that the issue that men take with this, I think, again, it's like, when the school shooter goes and shoots up the Muslim synagogue,
Yeah,
the Muslim
Christchurch. Yeah,
synagogue.
go on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, the Muslim synagogue. The
The mosque.
he goes and shoots up the mosque, right? Or Elia Roger goes and shoots he shoots the women at UCSB. It's like, Elliot, he's not mad at the women. It's like, it's not their fault. It's not some dumb girl at UCSB who's chasing alpha frat bros. It's like, it's not that girl's fault. It's he's mad at the system. He's mad at the
Right.
system that has left him behind. And yeah, like that guy who shoots up the Muslims. It's like, look, you're mad at the fact that they allowed a bunch of fucking Muslims to come in unchecked to your country and take it over. Like, that's what you're mad about. Yeah, you should fight the Muslims on a core street to street sort of gang like level.
Right.
Yeah, you should treat women, you shouldn't, bow down to Muslims. You shouldn't bow down to women who've been put in this circumstance. But you also can't really blame, going and shooting a bunch of Muslims is not going to solve your fucking problem. It's not going to do anything for you. It's right. It's like not going to.
You made the problem worse.
Right. You're not. It's not going to, like, make the Muslims go away. It's at least in that sort of context. And so that's kind of what I want to say. It's like, we're not saying that, like, oh, I hate women, which is what a lot of people will hear this conversation and say, you hate women. It's like, no, we're saying we hate the conditions that force women to remove their womanhood from themselves, right? It's like, that's kind of what we're saying.
So, are you familiar with Z-Man at all? Z-Blog?
Z-Blog.
Or
No.
Z-Man? You should look him up sometime. He's a really good podcaster and a good author. I had him on my show around the time that we first chatted, and I kind of asked him, like, when does this all end? And he says,
Yeah.
well, eventually when the stock prices start to drop and you have some type of recession and there's no more money print to go burr, you'll not see the doggy daycare center next to the lobby anymore, because that's what you have at the moment. But unfortunately, what we've seen with Trump administration, Biden administration, and the economy, we're still rocketing forward towards these things never coming to an end, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of why I started to not necessarily podcast or do streams anymore, because I'm like, God damn it, this is really just never gonna end. We're gonna be browner, gayer, and poorer at this current with the current speed.
No, I mean, like, look, things are absolutely changing, undeniably, right? You can feel it now. You really can feel it. I mean, things were really bad in 2020. We really lost. We got fucked. We really, really lost in 2020. We lost COVID. We lost George Floyd. We lost the election.
All the cultural war stuff. You're getting ass fucked raw.
We got ass fucked in every fuck. We just had, like, loss after loss after loss. They were firing on all cylinders, man. They were fired. They completely took over. But they far overplayed their hand, man. And I think what occurred pretty recently is what we call the vibe shift, right? And the vibe shift was so profound. And really what the vibe shift was girls, and again, thank God for women, just starting to become attractive to the right wing. They started becoming attracted to, they say, gay and retard. They just got disgusted with the cuck ass pussies on the left. They were just disgusted. They're disgusted with these men. They're not satisfied. Nobody wants that type of man, right? And so they really started coming over to us, and that's real. That really is real, and you can feel it, and I see it. Do you know how different my life is now than it was 5 years ago? It's
Not a clue.
completely different. It's literally, it's like a completely different life. And it's because so many people are defecting. They're just defecting from the establishment. They're saying, fuck this. I'm not doing this shit anymore. Like, I'm not playing this game anymore. And so the demand is there. The social, once the left loses the social clout, which it's lost, it's all about status hierarchies, right? Once it's lost the status hierarchy, and once it's made everything that it touches uncool and like ugly and fat and brown, which is what it's done.
Yeah.
It's fucked, man. It's not going to survive. No, every girl wants to be hot. No girl does not want to be fucking hot.
Right.
And if you put a fat, ugly bitch on a billboard and put your clothes on her, yeah, the hot girl's not going to want to wear those clothes. Like, sorry to tell you.
It's fat
But
acceptance. It's nice.
yeah,
It's beautiful.
right. It's like, no. That's not how that works. And so look, this happens to regimes all the time. This is why why was the left so ascendant? The left was ascendant because they were cool. They were hot and sexy, and it was different, and the men were rebellious, and the men were saying fuck you and bombing places, and like making rock and roll music. Like, they earned all those cool points, but now that shit's done, and they became way too powerful. But I think my big but to all of this is, I think even still, the women are too deeply entrenched. There's too many of them. There's too many pharmaceutical drugs. There's too much porn. There's too much factors in the column of inertia towards becoming this disgusting, weak, masturbating, fat, seed oil consuming, just like brown mass. There's too many things working towards that to really stop it without war. Really, nothing is going to really change for real until there's war. But my opinion is, the second that there's war, the second there's real actual war, which there will be, the war is
well, Israel attacked
absolutely
Iran
inevitable. Yeah, there you go. It is going to happen. The war is the natural state of man. So war will happen. America will be attacked, and we will go to war, and our young men will have to shut the fuck up and go put an army uniform on and go fight in battles. That is going to happen. And that is, I think nothing will really actually totally change until then. But I think that it's gotten so rotten, shit has rotten so badly, that once that catalyst of war does happen, I think all the dominoes will like fall pretty quickly, and everybody will kind of be like, all right, oh thank God, but like we're so ready to like move on,
So before we end the night, I want to hear your opinion as far as the whole election goes. Are you voting? Do you care?
Oh, of course.
Do you have any opinion as far as the blue versus red? Because I just feel like it's just it's like wrestling. It's the heel.
It's just hopeless. It's pointless. Yeah, no, I super care. I really care. I'm very into Trump. I love Trump. I love, I just think what's going on is so fun. If nothing else, it's fun.
Well, I think Kamala's microdosing on Xanax. I thought she was drunk, because I feel like she's an alcoholic. But I was listening to what the hell is his face? his name just slipped my mind. This British guy that lives in Finland, and he says no, she's microdosing of Xanax. It's not that she's drunk; she's microdosing of Xannies.
Well, I don't know why you'd need to microdose. I mean, you could just take
Well,
Xanax.
if you pop a full Xanax bar, you're gonna be
It's too
drooling.
much.
Yeah, it's too much. So she's taking
Yeah,
micro.
no. I had a guy who worked for me actually that was a Xanax addict, and I think she's just a drunk. I think she's just a normal. Anyway, look, it doesn't matter. She's ridiculous and so hilariously bad. Uh, but it's really fun to watch, man. I mean, it's really fun for me to watch for one. But beyond that, it's just like symbol. Look, again, I'm like a branding guy. And so for me, like these symbols of America, while you're right, like while somebody who's actually more practical probably will look at these situations and be like, look, it's not going to really make any fucking difference.
I feel like Trump is
Yeah.
like America's got stage 4 cancer. You can prolong your life by like 6 months,
Yeah.
chemotherapy, radiation.
Yeah.
That's Trump. Or you can get
Or
into the
you can
pod.
or you can get into the pod.
You
Yeah.
get in the pod with Harris.
That's very well said. Yeah, and I think my more like based friends, like that's kind of their perspective. Yeah,
That's Mike, because Trump's not necessarily he's not running the same on the same platform as he did in 2016.
yeah,
He's
like we
much
can
older now, also.
like we can basically like yeah, I think that you're right. It's like Trump is like a Hail Mary
Right.
to maybe survive. And but I do think that if we do get Trump, it's going to be a really fun little like stretch here.
Do you want to go through that again? His last 4 years? What we went through with him was horrible. I mean, say what you want to say about Biden, but
I
the
don't think
cult.
that I don't think that'll happen again. I think
everything accelerated underneath him. Don't forget what was his parting words out of the Oval Office, and the stock market hit a new record high. I'm like, that's not what we wanted.
yeah, I mean, like, look, I like once the excitement is over, we're gonna have to deal with all of these things that you're saying, right? Like we're gonna have to deal with the actual reality of what is he actually really going to do? Can he do anything? Can anything actually be done? Is he actually going to deport anybody? Can he actually get any of the shit done? And look, I don't know the answers to any of that. That said, I think that it's just like, look, you take wins where they come, right? You can't like you gotta fight for whatever thing is good in front of you at the moment. And all that we have right now is this battle. It's really all that we have. And I just think that it's like such a clear example of like this whole establishment, this whole like super entrenched establishment, they wanted nothing else but to keep this guy out of there and just continue going at the pace that they were going and in the direction that they were going. And like, I don't know. It's kind of a beautiful thing, no? Or no, you don't think so?
No, I don't think so. I think you have too many women in the cat lady industrial complex that'll vote for Kamala, because that's what she's running on. All she does is talk about abortion. That's all she.
Yeah.
All she does is bring up Trump, which is kind of not what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to keep talking about your opponent so much. I don't know if you read the article about Kamala's army and how much the Democrats are putting so much time, energy, and effort on single affluent women to get that's their cohort, and that's what they're really banking on, trying to push her forward.
Yeah, but it's like, isn't this exciting? But okay, so from an accelerationist standpoint, you as a former or current MGTOW guy, I don't know which you are, you gotta understand that you were right. Like you put your eggs in a certain basket and you were right. Like you called, like, the red pill ideology does a better job explaining where we are right now than anything else. That's like
correct. Yeah.
That's why. So I run an agency, and I'm not a good businessman. I'm not a good fucking people person. I'm really like not super good at running a business, like at all. but my business is like kind of shockingly successful. And the reason for that, I really do believe, is that it's like, look, when you are right about something and you put skin in the game on the thing that you're right about,
Hmm.
you win. You get to win. Like you get to reap rewards from that thing. Like that's just how it is. Like if you make a call and your call is basically right, if the way that you understand the world is better than the way that somebody else understands the world, and you act upon that, you're going to get rewarded for it. And like for those of us who've been on this tip, this whole time, like we were fucking right.
Yep. Totally.
And so like
It's nice being
the
right, right?
yeah, it's
It's a
nice
good
being right.
feeling.
And if we were wrong, Trump wouldn't be there. We wouldn't be talking about the longhouse. We wouldn't be having long discussions, but looking at these. Look at the motherfucking numbers. It's like white women skyrocketing in one direction and men skyrocketing in the other direction. That is such a red pill call. So many people have been saying this for so long. I mean, so many people on our side, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, saying any of the shit that we were saying, people would have thought we were completely insane.
Yep.
Now it's like kind of accepted that we were right, and that's fucking sick. Like that's great. I like that. You got to kind of, if like, you got to be happy when you are right about something. And so I feel like it's nice to see this happening. And I think that Trump, even if at the end of the day you are probably correct, like what's he really going to do? At least psychologically, the blow that he will deal to the absurd, naive worldview of the feminist is
The
fucking,
worldview of theirs. They live in such
very
fantasy.
satisfying.
It's
Right.
frightening the way that they view other. I'm blown away, like the utter ignorance of other cultures and other people. That's what frightens me. Like growing up in New York, everyone's differences were blatant. Like you can't, like there's no getting around the fact that this person does not share the same worldview as you, nor does
Yeah.
you. The problem, what I experienced in my own cultural shock when living in Asia, is that you're assuming that person thinks like you.
Yeah.
And I remember like having my friends from Europe and stuff, and like I would go about things in an American way, and they would just pull me back in. They're like, no, you can't do that. Like
Yeah.
you can't help them. Like you giving them money or buying them
Yeah.
food and stuff, they
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
at you like
Isn't
a
it?
sucker, not as a good
Yeah. Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
So
Totally. Yeah. No, I remember that's very true of living. That's why really living in Asia is like the healthiest thing you can do, because it's you see, especially for women, bro. You like living in Southeast Asia, women go insane because it just flips everything they thought on their head, And yeah,
well, they
it's like
understand their
all
own
this
age. Like
bullshit.
you could joke around with an old woman about her being old because she's old. She knows it. She
Yeah.
gets it. Like it's a joke. Like yeah, she's not gonna
Yeah.
lie about her age at all. Like that doesn't
Yeah.
exist there.
Yeah.
You know. So
Yeah.
well, listen. I don't want to keep you on too much longer. I had a lot of fun catching up with you. Let's
Yeah.
definitely do this again. I maybe I could come on your show
Of
sometime,
course. Yeah.
and
Anytime, man.
I'll spit some articles to you, and maybe you spit some articles to me, and maybe we can make a show out of it or something. All right,
Totally, dude. Yeah, come on my show anytime. Yeah, it was great chatting with you. Good catching up.
Isaac. Listen, safe
All right.
travels, man. You have a great night.
Okay, peace.
Take care.